Jaya Radha Madhavan Jaya Kunja Bihari. It's all right, please don't touch it. Jaya Radha Madhavan Jaya Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jannavallabha Jaya Kiri Varadari Jaya Kiri Varadari. Bigger pair and make it louder. I can't hear it. You play the larger ones. I can't hear that. Gopi Jannavallabha Jaya Kiri Varadari Jaya Kiri Varadari. Too slow. Follow me. Gopi Jannavallabha Jaya Kiri Varadari Jaya Giri Varadari. Shonanandana Radhadana Ranjana Yashodanandana Radhadana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava on beat. Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Giri Varadari Jaya Giri Varadari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Giri Varadari Jaya Giri Varadari. Yashoda Nandana Rajajana Rajanya Yashoda Nandana Rajajana Rajanya Yashoda Nandana Rajajana Rajanya Yashoda Nandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Manachari Yamuna Tira Manachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Kacharya, hostile, Dharta, Tashishi, Mon, Nikili, Vistom is divine grace. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, ISKCON, founder, Acharya, Jagatarupa, Bhavana, Shri Prabhupada.
Jai.
Balaram's appearance today. Jai. Four Premanandi. Haribo. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru. Sri Gauranga. All glories to Sri Prabhupada. That goes up there. So we are going to read several verses from the seventh canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which we'll see that Srila Prabhupada gives very profound realization of the importance of Lord Balaram from his own understanding, purporting the Srimad Bhagavatam, and also makes the importance of Lord Balaram by that understanding very, very meaningful to us. And that meaningfulness to us is based upon our relationship with him as his disciples to please him and fulfill his desire to serve his spiritual master. I don't want it very close.
It's not going to be close. I'm just tilting it this way so we can...
Okay. So whatever has to be adjusted there. To fulfill his, please Srila Prabhupada by helping him to serve his spiritual master, which is simply to spread Krishna consciousness all over the universe. Actually, because everyone is wandering up and down within this universe, only those who leave this universe are those who are promoted to the universe where Krishna is right now displaying his eternal roadshow, which is rare. But actually, we want to make that less rare, that more and more personalities get that opportunity. But everyone is wandering within this universe, so those who receive Krishna consciousness to whatever level they accept it, and that judgment of what that level is, that's not for us to decide. Krishna makes a statement, Svalpamapi asya dharmasya trayate mahatobayat, even the smallest amount of devotional service is enough to ensure one's complete perfection. In the Bhagavatam, it even says 1/11 of a second association with a pure devotee is enough to ensure one's complete perfection. So we glorify Srila Prabhupada, we glorify the pure devotee, spiritual master, the representative, especially of Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya, as being glorified throughout the entire universe, all 14 planetary systems. May your fame be spread throughout the three worlds, upper, middle, and lower. So, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paskita Deshatarane Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya We are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto, chapter number 15. Instructions for civilized human beings, beginning with verse number 45. This is Narada Muni, the Narada Muni, instructing Maharaj Yudhishthira. As long as one has to accept the material body with its different parts and paraphernalia, which are not fully under one's control, one must have the lotus feet of his superiors, namely his spiritual master and the spiritual master's predecessors. By their mercy, one can sharpen the sword of knowledge, and with the power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's mercy, one must then conquer the enemies mentioned above. We will slightly backtrack to verse 43 and 44, which list those enemies. In the conditioned stage, one's conceptions of life are sometimes polluted by passion and ignorance, which are exhibited by attachment, hostility, greed, lamentation, illusion, fear, madness, false prestige, insults, fault-finding, deception, envy, intolerance, passion, bewilderment, hunger, and sleep. All of these are enemies. Sometimes one's conceptions are also polluted by goodness. By their mercy, the mercy of one's predecessors, one can sharpen the sword of knowledge, and with the power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's mercy, one must then conquer the enemies mentioned above. In other words, hold the sword. Not that you're given the sword, but you have to have strength to hold it, and strength and intelligence how to wield it and utilize it. In this way, the devotee should be able to merge into his own transcendental bliss, and then he may give up his body and resume his spiritual identity, which is what we all want. Purport. In the Bhagavad Gita, 4th chapter, 9th verse, the Lord says, Janma karma cha me divyam evam yovati tatvitaha yaktva deham punarjanma naiti mam eti sarjuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Krishna says, just there, also in those verses, next to this one, in the Transcendental Knowledge, chapter 4 of the Bhagavad Gita, that he Yada yadahi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhutanam siddhamaham sujamiham. Whenever and whenever there is the decline in religious practice and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself. So as Krishna is alert to dharmasya glani and its devastating effects, so similarly the devotees of the Lord, Krishna tells to Durvasa Muni, or Lord Vishnu, that the devotees are in my heart, and I am in the heart of the devotees. The devotees don't know anyone but me, and I don't know anyone but my devotees. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, praying to the spiritual master, glorifies the pure devotee that Krishna is in your heart, and therefore you can give him to me. Just like two people who are very much in love with each other. They know what each other is thinking and feeling. They're always thinking how to please the beloved. So similarly, as Krishna is always thinking, there's a verse in the 14th chapter, which is the section about Maharaj Prithu, in the 4th canto. The devotees of the Lord are generally aloof from material affairs, politics, and the wranglings of the materialists in their attempt to compete and exploit the material nature. But when it creates a situation that interferes with the smooth running or flow of the natural course of human life, which is meant to go back home, back to Godhead. During the time of Lord Ramachandra, so many wonderful things. There was not even death for those who did not want to. All those who saw Lord Ramachandra ruling as king of Ayodhya were all promoted to the spiritual world. Everyone, without exception, after death. That is proper management of this material world in the ultimate sense. So when such a situation is interrupted and not being facilitated, the devotees of the Lord cannot remain aloof. Prabhupada says in that place, I could find it, but I don't know it right off the top of my head. It's in the 14th chapter, 4th canto. They must act. Otherwise, their Brahminical tejas will be lost. Just like a pot that's got a crack in it, everything will leak out in due course of time. So, one who knows my transcendental nature, the only way to know Krishna's transcendental nature is through devotional service. And devotional service, especially in this material world, and especially in Kali Yuga, is to help the Lord fulfill his mission. To paritranaya sadhunam, vinishaya traduskritam, dharma samstapanataya sambhavami yuge yuge. So we must help the Lord to annihilate the miscreants and to enliven the sadhus. And Prabhupada said there are many persons out there who are waiting to receive this message. We simply have to place ourselves out there so we can find them, and perhaps even more poignantly, they can find us. If we're not out there to be found, how can they find us? Isn't it just logic? We all have a story how we came to Krishna consciousness. If it wasn't through meeting the devotees, then most likely it was by coming in contact with Srila Prabhupada through his books. And how did we get in contact with Srila Prabhupada through his books? One of Srila Prabhupada's devotees made those books available somehow or another. This is the highest perfection of life, Janma Karma Chame Divyam. This is the highest perfection of life, and the human body is meant for this purpose. It is said in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 20th chapter, it was in the midst of the epic Uddhava Gita, Krishna instructing Uddhava in the 11th canto, 17th chapter, 17th verse. Nirdeham adyam sadurlabham, sulabham sadurlabham, plavam Sukapam Guru Kandaram. No. I can't read this. I can't see it. This human form of body is a most valuable boat, and the spiritual master is the captain to guide the boat in plying across the ocean of nescience. The instruction of Krishna is a favorable breeze. One must use all these faculties to cross over the ocean of nescience. Since the spiritual master is the captain, one must serve the spiritual master very sincerely, so that by his mercy, one will be able to get the mercy of the Supreme Lord. The significant word here is Achyuta Bala. The spiritual master is certainly very merciful to his disciples, and consequently, by satisfying him, the devotee gets strength from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By the mercy of Krishna, one gets Guru. By the mercy of Guru, one gets Krishna. That's not just a one-time thing, but it's all the time. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore says in his teachings too, Srila Rupa Goswami, Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. One must first please the spiritual master, and then one automatically pleases Krishna and gets the strength with which to cross the ocean of nescience. If one seriously desires to return home back to Godhead, one must therefore become strong enough by pleasing the spiritual master, for thus one gets the weapon with which to conquer the enemy, and one also gets the grace of Krishna. One time a devotee was writing to Srila Prabhupada that he has so many stumbling blocks and it's not possible for him to advance. And Prabhupada said, what are these stumbling blocks? With one kick of my boot, I can remove all of these stumbling blocks. One simply has to become sincere. Hansarupa Prabhu contributed to our Radha Govinda chat something interesting here. Where is it? Do not be depressed. All along, my godbrothers gave me only depression, repression, compression, but I continued strong in my duty. So never mind there is some discouragement. Continue with your work in full enthusiastic Krishna consciousness attitude of service. And that was a letter to Guru Das, who was at that time posted to be the builder and overseer of the Krishna Balarama Mandir. He and his wife then at the time, the saintly Yamuna Devi Dasi, were put into a very difficult situation. And Prabhupada especially wanted one of his most competent disciples to build the Krishna Balarama Mandir because of its great significance, as we will hear very soon. But practically to not get cheated by the builders and by the workers. One very big factor in India, maybe still now, but certainly at that time, was cement. Prabhupada was picked up at the airport in Delhi and being brought to Vrindavan by Guru Das. Prabhupada was very, very silent and serious, and Guru Das was thinking, oh, Prabhupada is going to tell me something very confidential and esoteric because we're going to Vrindavan. So finally, after maybe an hour and a half into the journey, Prabhupada spoke his first words, actually word, and he simply said, cement. To get the cement from the government, and then because it's such a valuable thing that, well, first checking it to see that it's not watered down or mixed in with other debris or something, it's actually cement, and then to lock it up very securely. When Prabhupada was visiting New Vrindavan in 1976 and was seeing the just being built arches or framework of what is now Prabhupada's Palace of Gold, he saw underneath a tarp that wasn't very tied down nicely. It was blowing in the wind, and that was some cement. And Prabhupada reported to them, this is you have to. And sure enough, the devotees didn't take care, and it rained, and all that cement was ruined. So then later, when the cement was being delivered, when Prabhupada was present, Prabhupada personally watched the truck and the workers, and he himself counted every single bag that went into the go-down that was locked with a very strong padlock afterwards. So Prabhupada was not soft or sentimental with his leading devotees. The devotees who he required to carry the ball, take very serious responsibility, he was very strict with them. This is called Guru Kripa. Actually, Guru Kripa Das himself, he describes one time when he was sleeping It was 12:30 at night, and Prabhupada sent his servant to go wake him up and said, "Why are you sleeping?" I said, "Prabhupada, I'm sleeping. It's 12:30 at night. I'm tired." "Why are you tired?" "I sleep only an hour and a half. That is more than enough. I am translating books. Why are you sleeping?" And he said, "Prabhupada, I'm working 18 hours a day." 18 hours? Our process is 24 hours. And then Guru Kripa relates that, why is Prabhupada chastising me this? For nothing. I didn't do anything wrong. I thought I was doing very good. And then I found myself getting angry, I had to suppress it. And then Prabhupada, understood that he had chastised me enough. And then he told me this beautiful story of Krishna and Balarama and the cowherd boys, and personally gave me a hug and said, "Now you go take rest." So so one has to pass the test of the spiritual master. Our false ego has to be broken. One has to remain a fool before the spiritual master, not like an incompetent, bungling idiot, but never think that we can catch up to Srila Prabhupada, or what to speak of surpass him. That old Prabhupada said like this back then, but now we have knowledge and we have we have to do it this way. That is a recipe for disaster. So one must first please the spiritual master, then one automatically pleases Krishna and gets the strength with which to cross the ocean of nescience. Simply by getting the weapon of jnana is insufficient. So many people have so much knowledge. What are they doing with it? And is it knowledge actually from the proper source? So we see devotees, they're so learned and they know so many shlokas and they seem really fixed up, and all of a sudden one day, they're gone. What happened? One must sharpen the weapon by serving the spiritual master and adhering to his instructions. Thus, the candidate will get the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In general warfare, one must take help from his chariot and horses in order to conquer his enemy. And after conquering his enemies, he may give up the chariot and his paraphernalia. Similarly, as long as one has a human body, one should fully use it to obtain the highest perfection of life, namely going back home, back to Godhead. The demigods are waiting in line to take birth in this movement. So the opportunity to serve the mission of Srila Prabhupada, the mission of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the mission of Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, the mission of Srila Rupa Goswami, is the greatest opportunity in the entire, cosmic manifestation, not just this universe. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his advent, or his advent, and all of the different devotees of Krishna, Radha and Krishna, took the opportunity to descend and become whoever they were. We were mentioning in the last class, the catalog book Gorgonadesh Deepika describes, and actually we see in Adi Leela chapter 10, 11, and also 12, the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Nityananda, Advaita Acharya respectively, Srila Prabhupada refers to the Gorgonadesh Deepika repeatedly to describe who the devotees in Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda's Leela are/were in relationship to Krishna. So, and when those devotees come with Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, they simply facilitate and assist and joyfully and vigorously participate in serving his Sankirtan movement, the movement of Lord Chaitanya, to distribute love of Godhead to the people in general. The perfection of knowledge is certainly to become transcendently situated, Brahmabhuta, as the Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita, 1854. One who is transcendently situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments nor desires to have anything. He is equally disposed towards all living entities. In that state, he attains pure devotional service, equally disposed towards all living entities, not considering who is fit or who is unfit, a proper place or a proper time. The members of the Panchatattva broke open the seal on the storehouse of love of Godhead and plundered its contents. But the more they distributed, the contents grew exponentially. I have $1 million, I give you 10, 20, 100, I give it all out, and everybody, you all have, and I have nothing. That's material world. Spiritual world, 1 minus 1 equals 2. Ad infinitum. Simply by cultivating knowledge, as the impersonalists do, one cannot get out of the clutches of Maya. Impersonalist means there's no devotional service. There's no attempt to fulfill the desire of the Lord, to touch his heart. My dear Durvasa Muni, by acting against Maharaj Ambarish, you have acted in self-envy. It's not that your attempt to harm Maharaj Ambarish, but you've harmed yourself. If you want peace, you must go to him immediately, without a moment's delay. If he can forgive you, then only there will be peace for you. So Prabhupada writes in that section, in that purport, that this Krishna consciousness movement, previous to that verse that I said, that he's saying that I live only for my devotees. I'm completely under their control. And Prabhupada describes the greatest opulence of Krishna in that he is the supreme controller, but he joyfully and with great desire and happiness places himself under the control of his pure devotees' love, the love of his pure devotees. This gives him the supreme topmost happiness. So Prabhupada says, amazingly, that this Krishna consciousness movement is an attempt to increase that happiness of the Lord more and more by creating more and more such pure devotees who are on that caliber, at which this Krishna consciousness movement is meant to facilitate, which is what its real purpose is all about, to bring everyone to that stage. This is not the International Society for Beginners Bhakti. This is the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, which means fully aroused love of Godhead. Prabhupada says that this Krishna Consciousness movement is based on the same principles and carrying out the same actions and activities that Lord Chaitanya did when he was personally present without failure. He says that in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So simply by cultivating knowledge of the impersonalists, so Prabhupada makes a statement in one purport in the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, in the Samoham Sarvabhuteshu. The Lord is like a diamond, and the devotee is like a gold band that enhances the diamond, but actually they both enhance each other's beauty. In the impersonalist philosophy, there is no personal relationship between the Lord and the devotee. Become one with the Lord, become God. No rasa, complete atheistic insanity. No happiness whatsoever. Zero. Nirvishesha Sunyavadi, voidism. But in the personalist philosophy, there is an ocean of devotional reciprocation. The Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the unlimited nectarian ocean of devotion. Simply by cultivating knowledge as the impersonalists do, one cannot get out of the clutches of Maya. One must attain the platform of bhakti. One can understand the Supreme Personality as he is only by devotional service, and when one is in full consciousness of the Supreme Lord by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. Unless one has attained the stage of devotional service and the mercy of the spiritual master and Krishna, there is a possibility that one may fall down and accept a material body. Therefore, Krishna stresses in the Bhagavad Gita, and again, Prabhupada quotes the same verse for the second time, Janma Karma Chime Divyam, one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my abode, Arjuna. The word tattvataha, meaning in reality, is very important. Tato mam tattvato jnatva. Unless one understands Krishna in truth by the mercy of the spiritual master, one is not free to give up his material body. As it is said, Aruya Krichena Parampadam Tata Patanti Ado Yusmad Nidrita Yusmad Angraya. This is an important verse from the prayers of the demigods for Lord Krishna in the womb, 2nd chapter, 10th canto, which is important to keep in mind for the coming of Janmashtami, Krishna's appearance. If one neglects to serve the lotus feet of Krishna, one cannot become free from the material clutches simply by knowledge. Even if one attains the stage of Brahma Padam, merging in Brahman, without bhakti is prone to fall down. One must be very careful in regard to the danger of falling down again into the material bondage. The only insurance, Mother Chinmayi, her initiation, Prabhupada, as he, with all disciples, what are the 4 rules? He will chant 16 rounds. But before giving her her beads and name, she said, Prabhupada said, "Are you insured?" And she couldn't understand. Are you insured? So she had or has a distinctive mole on her face. And Prabhupada went on to say there was one very famous Bollywood actress, and she had a similar mole on her face, and she had it insured for millions and millions of dollars or rupees. And then Prabhupada laughed and said, "Your only insurance is Krishna consciousness. Your name is Chinmayi Devi Dasi." You can hear her say that story on Prabhupada Memories videos. So the only insurance, okay. The only insurance is to come to the stage of bhakti from which one is sure not to fall. Then one is free from the activities of the material world. In summary, as stated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one must get in touch with a bona fide spiritual master coming in the parampara of Krishna consciousness, for by his mercy and instructions, one is able to get strength from Krishna. Thus, one engages in devotional service and attains the ultimate goal of life, the lotus feet of Vishnu. Significant in this verse are the words Jnanam Achyuta Bala, Jnananam Jnanasim. The sword of knowledge is given by Krishna, and one serves the Guru and Krishna in order to hold the sword of Krishna's instructions. Balaram gives one strength. Balaram is Nityananda. So we could say that perhaps our relationship is with Lord Nityananda more applicable, more ready, more important. But because the Lord and his devotees, Chaitanya Leela and Krishna Leela, they're non-different, we actually have a very, very special, not a distant, but a very right now relationship also with Lord Balaram. Brajendra Nandana Ye, Sachi Sutta Hoilo Se, Balaram Hoilo Nitai. This Balaram comes with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and both of them are so merciful that in this age of Kali, one may very easily take shelter of their lotus feet. They come especially to deliver the fallen souls of this age. Papa Tapi Yata Chilo Harinam Udarila. Their weapon is Sankirtan, Harinam. Thus one should accept the sword of knowledge from Krishna and be strong with the mercy of Balaram. We are therefore worshiping Krishna and Balaram in Vrindavan. In the Mundakya Upanishad, it is said, Nayam Atma Balahina Labdyo Nacha Pramadat Tapaso Vapi Alingat Eter Upayer Yatate Yastu Vidvams Tasyaisa Atma Vishate Brahmadama. One cannot attain the goal of life without the mercy of Balaram. Srila Narottam Das Thakur therefore says, Nitayer Karuna Habe Bhaje Radha Krishna Pabe. When one receives the mercy of Balaram, Nityananda, one can attain the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna very easily. Say Sambandha Nahiyar, Prita Janma, Gelatar, Vidyakule He Karebe Tar. One who has no connection with Nitai, Balaram, then even though one is a very learned scholar or jnani or has taken birth in a very respectable family, these assets will not help him. He must therefore conquer the enemies of Krishna consciousness with the strength received from Balaram. I'm going to exploit the 9 o'clock because there ain't no breakfast. Those who wish to stay can do so. Otherwise, if one does not take shelter of Achyuta and Baladev, then the senses acting as the horses and the intelligence acting as the driver, that painting by Bharadvaj in the original Bhagavad Gita, the passenger, looking like fright personified, and then the driver is like a blind intelligence, and the horses are the senses, and the reins. We're about to fall over into a Hiranyas Bosch cliff into the pits of hell, Both being prone to material contamination, inattentively bring the body, which acts as the chariot, to the path of sense gratification. When one is thus attracted again by the rogues of Vishaya, eating, sleeping, and mating, the horses and chariot driver are thrown into the blinding dark well of material existence, and one is again put into a dangerous and extremely fearful situation of repeated birth and death. Purport: without the protection of Gaura Nitai, Krishna, and Balaram, one cannot get out of the dark well of ignorance and material existence. This is indicated here by the word nochet, which means that one will always remain in the dark well of material existence. The living entity must get strength from Nitai Gaur or Krishna Balaram. Without the mercy of Nitai Gaur, there is no way to come out of this dark well of ignorance, as stated in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela, chapter 1, verse number 2. Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sodido Godade Pushpavanto Chitro Sando Tamo Nudo. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Sri Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, who are like the sun and the moon. They have arisen simultaneously on the horizon of Goda to dissipate the darkness of ignorance and thus wonderfully bestow benediction upon all. This material world is a dark well of ignorance. The fallen soul in this dark well must take shelter of the lotus feet of Gaura Nitai, for thus he can easily emerge from material existence. Without their strength, simply attempting to get out of the clutches of matter by speculative knowledge will be insignificant. This is probably the longest lasting object in this building. It was built in 1982 when we moved in here. And I think the books that are in here might have also been here that amount of time. That's a point of management. Do we need all of these, like, oh, my Lord, I'm carrying a heavy load every time I got to push it back and forth? You can probably take some of those books out. As early as April of 1972, Prabhupada had asked that the deities in Vrindavan be Krishna and Balaram. What are we reading from? Srila Prabhupada Leela Amrita, Chapter 7, original printing, verse 178. Krishna may be black, Balaram of white, and the pose in the back of the Back to Godhead, it was actually on the front cover, Back to Godhead magazine, is very nice. He asked that a sign be put out front announcing Sri Krishna Balaram Mandir. One reason Prabhupada chose Krishna and Balaram as the presiding deities, Mahatma Prabhu, this was being touched upon in the class that he gave. The reasons for Prabhupada installing the deities of Krishna and Balaram. One reason Prabhupada chose Krishna and Balaram as the presiding deities was that most of the Vrindavan temples were of Radha and Krishna. ISKCON's temple would be unique in Vrindavan. Another reason was that the ISKCON land was located in Raman Reti, an area of forest and soft sands where Krishna and Balaram had enjoyed their childhood pastimes 5,000 years ago. To celebrate and worship the youthful sports of Krishna and Balaram in Raman Reti was fitting. Although thousands of years had passed since Krishna's advent in Vrindavan, the same atmosphere and many of the same sights and sounds still prevailed. Peacocks ran across the sands or sat on rooftops or in trees. The cooing and chirping of pigeons and cuckoos and the sweep of the parrot's green wings were eternal sounds and sights of the Vrindavan forest. In Krishna book, Prabhupada had described how Krishna and Balaram and their cowherd friends played in Raman Reti and similar places. My dear friends, just see how this riverbank is extremely beautiful because of its pleasing atmosphere. And just see how the blooming lotuses are attracting bees and birds by their aroma. The humming and chirping of the bees in the forest is echoing throughout the beautiful trees in the forest. Also, here the sands are clean and soft. Therefore, this must be considered the best place for our sporting pastimes. The playing of the cowherd boys with Krishna and Balaram as friends in Vrindavan is the highest spiritual realization, far beyond the ordinary religionist's understanding of God. The supreme truth, whom some meditated upon as impersonal Brahman, others worshipped as the Supreme Almighty, and still others considered an ordinary living entity, was the eternal loving friend of the cowherd boys of Vrindavan. Only after many, many lifetimes of pious activities had they become eligible to join in the loving pastimes of Krishna and Balaram in Raman Reti. There was another particular significance in Prabhupada's choosing Krishna and Balaram as the central object of worship in his Vrindavan temple. Lord Balaram is the first expansion from Lord Krishna, and in his incarnation of Sankarshan, he upholds all the universes. The Vaishnavas therefore worship Balaram for spiritual strength. And this famous statement by Srila Prabhupada that we can all hold very, very dear. You can pray to Lord Balaram, Prabhupada said, to help you in your deficiency. As the source of spiritual strength, Lord Balaram is also known as the original spiritual master. As in Prabhupada's order, large ISKCON temples, other large ISKCON temples, there would be 3 altars beside Krishna and Balaram would stand the deities of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself, and Lord Nityananda is Lord Balaram, a fact that the Krishna Balaram Mandir would proclaim to the world. So for us, this is one of the most common things that everybody knows, that Gaur Nitai and Krishna Balaram are the same. But how many people, let's say, in India know this to be true? Those who are Indians or of Indian origin, what can they say about that? That's Hadai Pran, Prabhu Vishnu. How many persons, the percentage of India, know that Krishna and Balaram have descended as Gaur Nitai? 101. One, right. So you didn't know that growing up in... No. I guess maybe if you're a Bengali, you would know that.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So this is a very important point. And that up there in North India, in Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan, Punjab, yes, we're worshiping Krishna. But to really worship Krishna and to get Krishna's mercy, you must get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. So this is a very, very important point that Prabhupada understood and set up the Krishna Balaram Mandir as a place of education, to teach people how to perform devotional service properly in this age of Kali Yuga. A fact that the Krishna Balaram Mandir would proclaim to the world. Lord Nityananda is especially referred to as the Kripa avatar, the form of God most merciful to the fallen conditioned souls. Thus, the worship of Krishna and Balaram as Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda would emphasize distributing Krishna consciousness to others. And even to date, so we were hearing, these beautiful sights and sounds that were there 5,000 years ago. Well, you might have to go beyond Rama and Reti to find those same sights, sounds, and sensations. What is that term? I don't know who originated. We have become victims of our own success. So now, the Krishna Balaram Mandir and its vicinity is not a place for peaceful, contemplative relaxation, somber retirement, but it is a place of active preaching. And in terms of the Krishna Balaram Mandir book distribution, they're distributing, it's read every day at Mangal Arati, tens of thousands of pieces of literature. I think they're in the, maybe somebody more in the know, in terms of Indian temple distribution, they're in the top numbers, top 5, top 3, competing with Bombay, Calcutta, Mumbai, Mayapur. So, distributing Krishna consciousness to others, Prabhupada also wanted to install the deities of Radha and Shyamasundar along with their 2 attendant gopis, Lalita and Vishaka. And when the temple was finally completed, it was a very, very joyous situation. Prabhupada it was a great triumph. There's the stories of the devotees witnessing Prabhupada offering the first artik to Krishna and Balaram to open the temple. When Dinabandhu Prabhu, longtime resident of Vrindavan, originally from California, but has situated himself in Vrindavan for practically the last 40 or 45 years, or even since 1975, almost, that's 48 years. Describes that look of Srila Prabhupada, a look of full satisfaction. And Thus, in Ramanreti, in a place where there was no temple, a pure devotee desired, let there be a temple and seva, devotional service, and what had once been an empty lot was now a place of pilgrimage. Such is the power of the desires of the pure devotee. So similarly, 305 Skimmerhorn Street was not an empty lot, but it was a Oddfellows Memorial, which is a branch of the very mysterious and I'll just use that adjective. You can think of another one or several others as you like. Freemasons becoming a conservative Jewish synagogue. The whole upstairs office area, from the point of entry on this stairway to that back entry was a secondary chapel. They had Torahs in there and religion and Hebrew books and small pews, maybe that size in the back. And the library was the rabbi's office. And the third and fourth floors here, that Hansarupa Prabhu and Kormarupa Prabhu oversaw the construction. We hired a contracting company to build all the different rooms, 301, 302, 401, 402, 03, 04, 05, 06, everything, common room. But it was one big open space which had a few opaque red stained windows, and there were like podiums and various types of Freemasonry symbols, spears, scepters. There was even a coffin. Ooh, didn't have a skeleton in it, it had straw in it, and it had some date on it, 1919. The Garuda Stamba was there, and other Corinthian pillars. Has anyone ever taken Charnamrita in Tawako, New Jersey? They had a little one, like so big. So now this place has become and is becoming more and more a great transcendental place of pilgrimage. Such are the desires of a pure devotee. So this is a very wonderful day. We can remember, or we can keep in mind, how we just installed Lord Nityananda in February, the appearance of Lord Nityananda, and we can all say how this is really like kick-started or upgraded things big time. So that same Lord Nityananda, we're celebrating his appearance day as his original manifestation as Lord Balaram. So let us concentrate on the service of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, understanding that it is ultimately non-different than the service of Krishna and Balaram. Narottam Das Thakur says, if one decides, let me dive deep into the loving network of Lord Chaitanya's distribution of love of Godhead, then at once one becomes one of the confidential associates of Radha and Krishna. Thank you very much. Shri Shri Krishna Balaram ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Govinda ki jai, Shri Shri Gaurnitai ki jai, Senapata Bhakta Commander-in-Chief, Jagat Guru, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.